Well, we left off Thursday night, and it is now Friday. Got to come home early. Yeah, I live off of a two-lane farm to market, and when you're going north to south, that's fine. But when there's a giant Christmas light parade that people are doing, and it's going to back traffic up for miles, and you're not going to drive through it, you're just trying to get to your house, that's a problem. And got one of the guys at work to agree to actually load the freight truck, and subsequently I got out of there, so I'll probably have to run in tomorrow on Saturday, check everything. But hey, keeps me from basically having to stay late and then sit on a road, a two-lane farm to market for a couple hours. Now, significant progress point from where we left off last night. Again, I guess I'll just cobble together some really weird video for you here. But we have highlighted the main thing, which was the immaculate use of needle nose pliers to get that air-fuel ratio gauge in. And you'll note, if you're unaware what this piece of carpet is, if you can't quite place it, well, this is the tailgate. Now you can, because there's a tail light, right? And there's supposed to be a dash here. Well, where did it go, and why is that shop back there, and why does this look so pristine? Let's take a look. Come up over here to the truck, and monumental progress, in my opinion. That's right, Hayco fender covers holding their own. But what's this crowd in here? I'm used to all this open space. It feels claustrophobic now because the dash is back. That is right. The dash is finally back in the truck. And very, very, very happy about that. Now, that's all we did. I had help very briefly. We're kind of in a hurry, and there's one thing I regret about that, which is the steering wheel. And I'll tell you, it's been a while since we pulled it, and when I did that, I want to say what I did was tilt it back to the wheel, lift it over, pull it this way, and then I carried it out that way. So naturally, I assume reverse the order. What the problem was is with this dash skin on it and fully assembled, trying to get everything rolling back, it was impossible to clear the steering wheel and clear the rear view mirror. I don't know why. I don't know if that certain section of the dash was broken off and I didn't have that issue, but much easier to take out than to put in. And again, if you got an extra set of hands, that would be fantastic, and I highly recommend it. If you got two friends over, that's even better. Not sure what the third wheel does exactly, but I'm sure they could help out somewhere. So only real issue, it is super dark. I'm just used to having all the shop light rain down in here, but the blue brackets there, which you can sort of see where my index finger is, I feel like those had gotten tweaked a little bit on the tailgate as I would pull it back and forth when I was prepping the dash for paint and everything. Sort of hard to hold the dash up with your shoulder awkwardly bent over and bend a metal tab, but we made it happen. So bottom line, I think we're ready to roll here pretty much. So we did have one casualty as I was trying to tap this in. This is a brand new from the LMC dash. Note it's not passenger side, but driver side rather. Popped out. I popped it back in and it popped right back out. So that's something I'll deal with later. But what I'm going to attempt to do is get some light in here and probably charge the other light. So I'm ready to go in that regard. And then I've got to see if this is sitting funky, maybe on some harnesses or plugs or something. Then, of course, we've got to start the tedious process of reconnecting everything, which I think the problematic ones will be easier to reconnect than they were to disconnect. Don't hold me to that. Could be terribly wrong. But you'll note the dash is sort of rolled out and away from the firewall. And the reason being for that, it's just I'm leaving myself space. I've got it over the bolts. They're not tight. I want to have a little bit of flex here in hopes that I make this a little bit easier for me to reconnect everything. So primarily our connections are over there. I think this is it, really. I think 2, maybe 3, maybe an airbag or something here or there. So once we do that, we can test out our hinge fix. We can get everything thrown back together, get the airbag out of the floor where it's been ever since it left, and clear up some walkways in the shop, get the double dent in, possibly test that out, assuming the airbags don't blow up in our face, start to work on the gauge pod, and, proceed on. So very, very excited. I'll attempt to film this. I don't know why it seems so dark. I guess I've just gotten used to not having the dash in here, but this is just it really doesn't look that bad on camera. But in person, it's just like incredibly dark. I guess I grew accustomed to not having this giant hulk in here. But I have mentioned several times I felt like the color was just a little bit different. I mean, I think even on the camera you can tell, you know, factory door card, door panel, whatever you want to call it. And then right here, lower dash, sub dash, whatever we want to call that subsection, factory. This is LMC. I personally feel like the color discrepancy between those is pretty noticeable. It's not, I wouldn't say objectionable, but I would say it's noticeable. Now, this has been kept in a box and kept in a shop, so it's never seen the light of day, really. If I drive this to work, you know, for a week straight, will it fade out? Will it do something color-wise and match the factory? That remains to be seen, but hey, you know, it is what it is. A lot of people I've seen with second gens, they two-tone this, like they'll, you know, their dash is terrible and they'll just get a black one or a gray. I guess depending on the vendor they get it from. I don't know. I guess people kind of like that look. So if that's your thing, keep that in mind. This will not be like an exact color match, at least not with mine. Who knows, maybe what they matched it from. This is telltale sign, but for me it's very subtle. And again, I'm not going to complain about it because I'm just happy that this is here. there's not stress fractures and giant cracks running around from the firewall to the front of the dash. So with all that aside, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to get my lights plugged in. I'm going to get to work here under the dash. Might do this side for a boost of confidence because it's way easier. And then work my way towards the problem side. But stoked to have some time off. Already made significant progress here. And can't wait to get this thing buttoned up. Alright, so back with some light. We got a couple of connectors to consider here. Number one, the long snaky thing with foam is the antenna. It needs to be clipped. Again, had I have known that they foam taped everything, we would have had that in place, but whatever. So that disconnect would be back there in the bundle of nasty looking tape. But these clips here, where you kind of see like my white primer, you can kind of see the heater core, and then you see that white clip against the blue. That would actually be, I believe, for the antenna, if I'm thinking correctly. So I'll probably try to snake that over. End goal is just over there in the radio cavity. Up next, I don't quite see a connector for what I believe would be our airbag. We'll have to dig for that. But what we do have is we've got white and white. And those are obviously going to plug together. Now, if we were to connect them right there, that would look hideous. Right? So, if you recall, and you very well may not, because I have a hard time remembering too, and I did this stuff. That guy right there has kind of got that funky touchdown man bracket, right? And so, if I get the camera in here, kind of, you see that little black tab right kind of where the light's tipping? That's where that's going to slide in place, and then that next cavity where you see that plug, it will be for this orange one right there. So that'll pull the harness up, and then of course getting that clipped back in, that would be your engine side, kind of running out through the firewall. Slide that in place, that'll lift that up, get it out of sight, out of mind, and we will try snaking that antenna through. Alright, a few seconds later you can see my foam snake of an antenna plug, and it of course routes on the top of the dash, kind of right where we said it would. You can see the clips there. There's another one back over here. Then of course just the limited slack kind of keeps it in place there. Coming down, let's take you over here. I think you can see it. We got that in place. This was quite the stretch, this harness here, to get that back in, but got her done. And then of course the next plug just went in like so. The yellow guy that is unaccounted for, that would be our airbag plug. And if you didn't recall, right here the factory airbag right above the air, or glove box I should say, that is the connection right there. So what we're to now is the fun stuff, right? And I need to go get that bracket. I think I have it. I have never been happy with the way the paint looks on it for some reason. But I'll go try to find that thing, get it mounted back, maybe have to lift the dash up. I can't quite remember how it connects. Obviously that master airbag module, I'll plug in there. Let's see, that would be our cup holders, which I can go grab those, finally get those things moved back in here, which will be nice. Let's see, I had pushed back all the wires, like the plugs and everything, just for all the cutting of the stereo, everything along those lines. So I think what I'm going to do is start trying to fish some of those out, and then we may actually go over to the driver's side footwell and start tackling some of those like super pain in the butt connections and see if we can get it all back together. So that's what I'll be working on. I will try to update you accordingly, and we will take it from there. All right, so small problem. Not quite sure where the bolts are that hold that bracket in place. And I went ahead, I grabbed the bracket. There's a spider on it, probably an omen of some sort. But have it here in the floorboard at least, so it's handy. You pull the back cover from the back seat. Again, got to maximize your storage with this stuff. So passenger side footwell, we got like a little trim piece, if you will, for the airbag. I got the fuse box cover, kick panels, all that stuff's back here, right? So what's not back there is all of this stuff, because it's got to be connected, and it's going to be super fun. So if I'm thinking correctly, this and a couple of others are going to be the real pain in the butts, because they went, of course, to the fuse box, which we had to access from back here, which was a total nightmare. And I don't know that it's worth me trying to film that, but just you're gonna match everything up. Again, we did really good, I think, when we dismantled everything in terms of documenting it. Same thing, reverse procedure. The big body wiring module, we should be able to take care of that pretty easy. I'll have to go get my Stavilla socket set. We got these plugs. It's kind of foolproof. This is our AEM gauge one, so we don't have to worry about that. I'll probably route it with these wires, though. Up the steering column, of course, we got to plug all that stuff in. And if I can get any action shots for you, I'll attempt to do so, but just kind of a pain in the butt. And then I'm also going to try to maybe lift the steering column back so I can work my way center and pull all those connections through. But anyway, I'm going to start connecting this stuff and see how it goes. All right, as always, it's the little things, in this case, foam knee pad, makes your life much more enjoyable, especially now that the concrete's a little cold, right? Where we are driver's side footwell, obviously indicated by the brake pedal there. And trying to figure out what course of action we want to take. And I believe what we're going to do is probably start buttoning up the body control module, right? So it's going to be the big plug with the big gold-plated X bolt in the middle. And if I can get the camera back here, you can see the gray orifice. It's going to plug in there. The white deal is actually going to correspond with this. If I'm remembering correctly, we didn't have a plug in the blue harness. If we do, we've got some problems because it's gone. But the purple and white connector there, I'm not quite seeing it just yet. These, I think, again, are going to go to the fuse box. They'll be the fun ones. Also, I'll probably come in. I luckily found that screw because it's going to go in right there in this module that will plug in right there. It's about the best we're going to do with the camera. Again, important stuff there. Turn signal switch, all that jazz. You can see more brass connections there. All that mess of cable is going to get routed up into the steering column. So again, course of action, trying to kind of get that so we can pull it back up. And that'll, of course, help lift the dash as well. So I'm going to start making some connections and see what we wind up with. All right, all these texts come at the inopportune times, but the yellow plug going up to the gray kind of taped off harness, that will be airbag. And I think it must have to route through this clip. I don't really remember, but I'm thinking that's the only thing that makes sense. But it would come up here, obviously, to the steering wheel because, you guessed it, airbag is in there, right? So the connections, where you see that little blue line, that is the main connector, and we've tightened down our bolt that runs through. Coming down, we've got this white connector, just presses in to sort of towards the steering wheel. We've got a really long black connector. You can kind of see the yellow and blue wires in with a thick red one. That plugs in, and then last there was a gray one, and it's probably the ignition. Not sure we can get a good look at it, but it just plugs up. So now we've got this connection here, and we're going to need to plug it in back. I think you can see the white piece here. I'm assuming that's where that's going to go. That'll, of course, line all this stuff up, get everything in position like we want it, and then we can kind of have that out of our headspace so we can mess with these. But I'll have to check these texts. Again, this is what happens when you leave work early. So like I said, hopefully it's nothing major. Don't have to go down there and get stuck in the Christmas light parade, but that's what we've done with the steering wheel connections. We're going to move on to these next. All right, terrible position I'm in. Hopefully it does you justice, but right here, got this harness plugged back in, and it will be basically what I assume is our brake switch. The thing says do not reinstall, and I've reinstalled it, so if we have any issues with hopefully just the brake system, I'll know it's that. We can basically pop this panel off, pull the brace, and have quick access to it, and I'm now familiar with it. I had pictures of it, but I don't remember removing it, so that's kind of where we stand there now. Made pretty good progress. I have routed, oh Lord, if I take you up here, I don't know if you can tell, but there's two pieces here, black, blue plugs. That is going to be for our headlight switch, so I've routed those through. There is a push pin that we need for that, and I've pushed it into place. Speaking of push pins, this hole right there, that should be, I can't see it, this thing right here should have a rail with a push pin. I think it must be one that like broke beyond repair. That should go there, and then that would allow this to plug in. So I must have that routed incorrectly. I'm going to need to swap those around. There's this connection here, and then there's the airbag. It's kind of the gray line that you can't see because the light rolled over. The gray, trust me. We're going to pull that out. In fact, let me try to do that right now without cutting myself. Fun times. So this will have to, I guess, route over this way would be the better way to do it, and we'll take care of that in a second, although that's dangling back in my face now. So what I want to try to do, because this is probably the best I can in position to do this for you, if you can tell, there's a brown plug right here. I believe this would be the bottom of the fuse box. Don't hold me to that, it could be wrong, but I'm thinking it would be on the bottom. Right here, we have blue and we have white, right? I think we can kind of make that out. Pretty sure blue is going to be our top connector, and I'm pretty sure white's the middle connector. I'm also confident that we outline this in great detail by way of video. And problem with that is I'm out here in the shop and I don't have videos, I just have pictures, and basically I'm going by the fact I saw the blue plug closest to the green plug, which stayed connected as best I can recall, and that's my story, and I'm going to stick to it. So we've got that going, and once we do that, there will be this plug. That airbag just bonked me in the eye. Right here, this plug, and then a bigger one, which will be somewhere that I can't see, right back here. You have no idea the position I'm in right now, but this thing, and they also had what would have been like a little push pin landing pad type of a deal, and it went on the flip side of this entire assembly, like on the parking brake side. So I'm thinking that's gone. It may still be there. I'm trying to feel it, but either way, that's where that's going to get tucked up. You'll note I have this off the bracket. I've left that there because this has the harness that has the 3 pins that go to the fuse box, and all the slack you can get will be a good thing. Now, the biggest pain in the butt so far, believe it or not, stupid airbag, was this that you can't really make out well. That steering column cover, the most innocent looking thing in this entire process, was a nightmare. I started, there's a white collar you probably saw in some of the earlier clips. It just snaps into place with 2 push pins, and then this should slide like a rail over the top of it. I started to pop off the white deal, assemble it, and then just push that back into the steering shaft. And the reason that I didn't do that to the column is I am afraid that it would be plastic push pins that fail again. So I wasted probably 20 minutes trying to get that thing to slide on and articulate properly. Had it several times where like one tab wasn't on, total train wreck, but got it done. My head is on a socket set and it's starting to get painful. So I'm going to shut up and I'm just going to make this happen, and hopefully this does help you. Again, if you've got any questions, you can see the fuse box back there. You can see the brown plug that I think we're going to take this and put it there, and then white would go up a little bit, blue all the way at the top. We'll see maybe if we have better access out here. In fact, Oh, this airbag thing, I never should have taken that out. Okay. Yeah. All right, well, freedom. Let's see here. This was something we referenced. And then if I take you over here, its harness is back right here in this loom. It's very difficult for you to see, but just literally right where my index finger is, that's where one of the push pins goes. And you can't really see the fuse box very well. Again, when we dismantled it, we did a really good job. And right now, I just want to put it together, so that's what I'm going to do. You'll also note we've had to switch to the Astro because Braun it wasn't dead, but it was going, so I've got it charging. But take care of this. Again, always recess those screws in the parking brake release, or the hood release, I should say, because that sucker will stick you really bad. But once we do that, I think this driver's side's pretty well done. And we'll do, granted we don't have any of the key components installed, but it's ready for them. And more importantly, then we can start pulling through all of the HVAC and stereo connections. So good times to wait. Let's get back to work. All right, so blue, white, red, that was the order. Or blue, white, brown. That's right, blue, white, brown. That was the order that I went with. We got them popped in. Much, much easier to plug them in than unplug them. So hopefully now that they've been broken a little bit, if we ever have to do this again, that won't be as tedious as the very first time. We got it done. Not going to crawl back in there. It's essentially right where I showed you now. The good news is that weird little plug, where's the piece? Right here, I told you it broke when we were taking this off. I was looking at this side of the body module, right? And I thought, man, it looks like there's like 2 or 3 more landing pads for that. And so the top one, like the farthest up, if you will, where my index finger is, that's what broke. I just dropped it down one slot and it plugged right in. That's going to keep that from dangling. So pretty happy about that. Let's see here. Gonna have to, I think, pop that. I'm gonna go get a pick tool so I can switch the wires around there. I honestly don't remember where the hood release threads into. I'm thinking it must be the support bar because I only see like one thing that might have threads in it right there. So we'll figure that out. I'm hesitant to hook up the parking brake release just yet. I guess I could. It's kind of, I don't know. I'm just thinking maybe that needs to be like fully in place before we do it. But I think once I switch that around, I've tightened this up. Again, it was 10 millimeter. Everything's in place. That was an upgrade. I'm gonna see if I have anything that I can route through this. Again, its little plug would be right there. I did buy some stuff. I don't know that it's gonna work for this, but I'll see if it does. If not, I very well may just cable tie it just so it's up and out of the way, because the other end is extremely annoying. This is what's always hitting me in the face when I was filming over there, so ideally we get that wrapped up. But yeah, I think we are just about done over here on the driver's side, so super nice to finally have some actual time to progress. Gonna grab a pick tool, see if we can get that set up, switch the wires around, and we should be ready to kind of jump into the middle. So we will be back. All right, so a lot has gone on here. And, basically, I've been trying to figure out where I tucked all the wires when we were cutting, trying to keep all the debris and plastic away from them. I think we found most of them. The big one there, I'm not quite sure what that black one's gonna plug into. I don't remember it, but we'll have to go look at the HVAC controls. All these here are gray and black. That's gonna be for the stereo. Same with these other two. That's the antenna. I unfortunately had the airbag main module on the passenger side. It should have been on the driver's side. Just rerouted that. I went and grabbed the bracket. I have it in place. I found the bolts, which is great news. I think way back there, those other two plug in. Really just need, I guess, to get the modules. I've got them all over on the workbench because we were going to change out the lighting. It makes sense for me to do that now, but at the same time, it's also would be nice to have like a before picture, so maybe we'll just throw all this back together, who knows. But what I'm gonna do is go grab the bolts, tighten this thing up. and I guess try to rock this back in place. The other thing I need to do though with you, just remembered, right here, this massive pain in our butt, because this was covered in foam tape, and that's why I could never find a connection. If I remember correctly, and I may not, I feel like it went down through there. That little hole where the white thing is constantly trying to go. I think that's where it goes. I'm going to route that through. We'll go ahead and connect it and kind of showcase that as well. Alright, not the easiest thing to hold this camera in here, so that's it. That was our connection that we could never find last time, because again it was covered in foam tape. So got it plugged in. Again, be careful with those because they're actually vacuum lines for your HVAC stuff, but it's routed up. We got a push pin in place, and I've got this over here. I need to bolt that up, and then I also found another piece of information for you. All right, so anybody remember this thing? It's been under the truck for an eternity. Literally under the truck is where I stored it with all the hardware. And I noticed that it had a track on it, and I went back and I flipped through all my pictures, and it turns out that the airbag stuff, which it would be this one right here, doesn't actually clip into that hole like I was thinking, and we'd broken like a plastic landing pad. It actually slides onto this rail, which is fantastic news. That means that's not screwed up. And obviously, in order to do that, we need to put this brace in place. I'm going to grab the bolts so we can tackle that, and then I may see if I can elevate the dash. As you can see, it's still quite a ways from the firewall. I think everything's connected minus like headlight switch, gauge cluster, HVAC controls, stereo, so on and so forth, right? And then of course the passenger airbag. But gonna try to take this strategically, so let's go take a look at the bolts, and then we'll get that thing thrown together. All right, so an important stop. I earlier had to locate the cup holders because I had them sitting out roughly in this area, and they'd been out so long I thought, man, those are just sitting there collecting dust, getting filthy. Well, let me put them somewhere, and of course I had to figure it out. Luckily it was this box right here. But you will note there is a light bulb there. I don't think this one would be a deal breaker if we go ahead and switch it over to my blue LEDs. My luck, the polarity will be wrong and we'll have to change it anyway. But I might get that thing plugged back in and go to town in that manner. We got throttle bodies, we got carbs, we got everything you'd ever need here. And coming up right here into the glove box of all places. That's right, it's been sitting over here on the hood of the Duster in part for this project that I had going on. And it involves, basically, you'll note, like we've got everything dismantled, we got the controls over there, but this, if you're having a hard time placing, that would be like your airbag on and off for the passenger. It illuminates, right? My thing is I'm like, well, how does it illuminate? What is it? It's like an LED bulb, you know, most likely. What's the catch? So that's how it illuminates. That's this thing dismantled. Again, this would just kind of tuck in like so. So if we were orienting them in the same manner, that's how this would be. That plug is one, actually two plugs, fantastic, needed to reference that. So we've got, of course, the airbag control, and then, of course, I assume the lighting, the electronics for that. But it would tuck back in there. Well, when I was looking around over here, check it out. I don't know why I had them over here. I guess because initially I didn't have the glove box in this location. But again, tag what you do. It'll come back to benefit you. If you see it right there, it looks stupid, but right hand airbag brace and left hand airbag brace. So I know what that means. I'm going to take advantage of it. The glove box light, that's the factory little 194. Might go ahead and switch it out too. It's kind of a pain in the butt. That's what all this old blue tape, and this is actually what I rigged up when I was in high school. And I'm not sure why there's a bulb in there. Wonder what that one went to. Anyway, that's kind of everything we had going on. And then, of course, over here, I've got the headlight switch, because again, there's LED illumination in there. And then right here, we've got the HVAC. I would flip that over, but I've got the screws in place so I don't lose them. Very well, I don't know. I'm kind of torn. It's easier for me to replace the LEDs now. I can make the video, but it would suck if we wouldn't have it before. I'm sure somewhere I could dig one out, but who knows. Anyway, I'm going to flip this over so I can reference all of the connections. Again, the headlight switch, these are the two that I've already pulled through. Obviously can't screw those up. There's like a 3-pin and then a big, 12, 16 pin. And then right here, we should have a couple, and I just want to reference those. Okay, so great news here. Obviously, we've got the little tiny 3-pin one, which we knew was there. This is actually, again, for your vacuum stuff, so again, be careful. But check it out, right there, those, 3 big pins and 4 little ones. That's that weird plug that I wasn't sure where it went. And then right there, we've got a hidden little pin connector. And that is what I needed to know. It makes me feel better about what we're doing. Because, again, the last thing I want to do is wedge the dash into place, start cinching it down, and then find out we've got to back her off. So feel pretty good about that. Kind of stupid, like I said, for me to reinstall this, but I do kind of want it before, so maybe we will. But anyway, I'm going to grab those bolts and get the dash in place. Well, that escalated quickly. And only holdup here was really the steering column. It was a situation where I think the weight of the dash, particularly in this case the installation, because you got to realize this whole time the dash has been out, I've had the steering column up in its natural position. I think as it goes down, it also kind of tends, gravity does its work. It's not suspended, so it's not only wanting to come down, but it's also wanting to slide forward, right? And so I think with that happening, had to pull this back through the firewall a considerable bit, but finally got everything to line up in the sweet spots here. And speaking of that, we've got the brace in. We've got the cover over there ready to go. Might go ahead and just, I don't really, with old cars, I don't deal with airbags. And the last thing I want to do is have an airbag go off in my face. I would like to test everything before I totally button it all up. I'm assuming if we have the main module right there disconnected, and then I have all the other, driver side airbag here, passenger side, obviously disconnected because it's not in. I'm inclined to think that we could test everything, right? But I don't know. I guess it wouldn't. Yeah. If it's sub-assemblies, it's not major. If the whole dash comes out, that's going to be a royal pain in the butt. That said, this thing, when I finally get some free time, you can throw it together really quick. So something I do want to point out, though, nothing is obviously tightened. We don't have the 13 millimeter bolts on the U-clamps on each end done. These are just kind of threaded in. I think they were tins. Check this out, though. In terms of things lining up, we're probably going to have to get the light here 1 second. But check this out. Boom. I mean, you got to get the camera in the right spot, but that's dead on. Come to the second hole. Boom. Dead on. So I can't really reach far enough over there with all the stuff in the seat. But I think what I'm going to do is tighten this stuff up, go ahead and do the ends. This might leave the column, it's relatively intact. I haven't torqued it down or anything. Might kind of leave it finger tight for now, and may go ahead and start assembling things. Now right here I want to highlight to you, this would be the plug, I believe, for my cup holder, and then this I think goes all the way back over here. I feel like I disconnected that bulb, yeah, from this cavity here, which you can't see because you're looking at my forearm. I don't know why you're doing that, but what I think I'll do is probably go ahead and swap those bulbs out. You wouldn't see those. I mean, granted, I keep my cup holders down almost all the time, but we're going to assume for the before and after that we have it shut, so it's like a pristine look. Same with the glove box. I'll just go ahead and knock that out. But I'm going to go and kind of get those bulbs in place, tighten everything down, and probably next time you see it, we'll hopefully have the glove box in and the cup holders. So we'll have to test out our mount there.